You're listening to The Gary Harris Show on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa.
Process easy and affordable. Visit RexMD.com right now to get started. That's REXMD.com.
The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV. Crimson Tide Kickoff. Play-by-play for Alabama sports and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
And good morning, everybody, and welcome into the Gary Harris Show here on Tide 100.9 FM, 1230 AM, WTBC. I'm your host, Gary Harris. Chase Brumfeld is, that's about 10, 12 feet away right there, as I like to say, on the other side of the glass in the control room. He's taking your phone calls on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline at 205-342-9904 and running the show this morning. And we're with you the next couple of hours talking sports and more. Said this before, it's a very fluid process doing a radio show, and already a curveball this morning. Kayla Anderson, who joins us for the Titans Report every Tuesday morning at 10:15. She's had a little issue this morning, so she can't be with us. She'll be with us tomorrow, but didn't find that out until just a short time ago. So that means as of right now, and that means we've only got one guest today for the show. So I'll see if I can add somebody in the second hour, but right now, just one guest. That's Drudy Armond coming up, the Rocket Man, at 9:30 this morning, talking Alabama basketball, football, and more. And but we'll have we got sound from yesterday. We've got both coordinators, Nick Sheridan and Kane Womack, as well as Alabama head football coach Kalen DeBoer. We can run some of that audio for you this morning if we need to as well. This hour of the Gary Harris Show, as always, being brought to you by your trusted partner for financial success. Embrace financial well-being with Alabama Credit Union. I guarantee you'll be glad that you did. Become a member today. It's member-owned and not-for-profit. It makes a big difference, and their commitment to the community is second to none with programs like Secret Meals for Hungry Children. Find out more at alabamacu.com. That's alabamacu.com, or you can see them when there are many locations around the great state of Alabama. Alabama Credit Union, loans for real life. Some rules and restrictions do apply. See if you're eligible for membership. Then join today and feel good about your money. And put a little extra change in your pocket. As I said, Drudy Armond coming up at 9:30, and I'm going to see if I can add a second hour guest. If not, though, you'll have Chase and I. So are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? We may even pull that line and play it. Great movie there, Gladiator. But all right, 205-342-9904 is the number to the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline if you want to join us here on the program. All right, let's just talk about some stuff that's going on. First of all, Alabama men's basketball last night. And I asked the question on my WVUA 23 Facebook page, and you know, keeping in mind that Arkansas State and I tell you what, something else I'll send you. I've got the Nate Oates audio from last night. That's fresh. I don't know why I didn't send you that, but I'll send it to you right now. Because I'm not saying that Arkansas State and McNeese State aren't good teams. They are good teams. They're good mid-major teams. But they're mid-major teams. And Alabama struggled to some degree against both of them at home. Last Friday night against Arkansas State, won by 9, and then last night 72-64. So I asked the question. I said, Alabama led by as many as 21 points, but McNeese State fought back to make it interesting. Bama wins 72-64. Alabama also struggled at times against Arkansas State. Two mid-majors gave the Tide some trouble at home. Are you concerned? And it's early, and I get it, but, you know, it's you have to keep it in context. A win's a win. They're 3-0, Alabama is. I get that. I'm not saying they're just, you know, this team's built for March. I understand that, too. So, you know, you got to keep it in context. Having said that, these are two mid-majors that came in here, and especially last night when you're up 21 at home, you're thinking Alabama's going to go ahead and win this game by 30. Now, Will Wade's a good coach. McNeese, like I said, is a pretty good team. But for them to come back and get it down to single digits there for the last several minutes of the game, Alabama went through a period where they couldn't shoot the ball. That's twice in a row, 2 games in a row at home. The shooting has been off. So what does that tell me? That tells me that this team is still trying to find its legs. A lot of new players, still trying to find chemistry, still trying to find a play in rotation. Had some guys that sat out, a lot of the preseason. So that's all that it tells me. But still, it's it's alarming knowing now that you're going to Purdue later this week, and that could be a challenging game as well because it will be a challenging game. Let's just be honest, much more challenging on paper than these games that they've played. So. It kind of is what it is type of thing. You'd rather be learning and getting your legs while you're winning. I agree with that. But are you concerned at all? If you're concerned at all, and your thoughts on basketball, kind of a sluggish start to the season after that blowout win over UNC Asheville, which was a beatdown, 110-54. Maybe that's got something to do with it. The fact that they won that first game in such a dominant fashion. And then you come back last Friday night against Arkansas State, and granted, Arkansas State's coached by Brian Hodson, former Nate Oates assistant, knows Nate Oates well, knows Alabama's system. And then last night, though, and I expected this to be a pretty tough game against McNeese. But when you're up 21, you're thinking you go ahead and win it, and you only score 72 2 points, which is by Alabama standards, very, very low number. I mean, they're used to pushing 90, 100. So, just curious about that. But, yeah, we do have the Nate Oates audio, and we'll get to some of that probably before we get to the football audio since that game was last night. But Alabama does get the win, and, yes, that is the bottom line. I do recognize that winning is, what you're trying to do. And as I said, it is a different team with a lot of different parts and guys that sat out. So I will cut them some slack for that. But having said that, while Arkansas State and McNeese State are pretty good mid-major teams, that's what they are. They're not Purdue, they're not Illinois, they're not Houston, not Rutgers, not North Carolina, not Creighton. And what you just heard me say, those are Alabama's next 6 opponents. How about that? Now that is a schedule. And that's one thing that Nate Oates loves to do. He loves to schedule tough in the preseason. Well, that's about as tough as it gets now. Let me just tell you. You're talking about a stretch of Purdue, Illinois, Houston, Rutgers, North Carolina, and Creighton. 5 of those 6 teams are ranked. Illinois was an outstanding team out of the Big Ten last year. Purdue 13, Houston 8, Rutgers 24, North Carolina 10, Creighton 14. Rutgers would even be higher. Houston would even be higher, but they lost to Auburn on Saturday night. So buckle up, because that's a tough stretch of basketball right there. And then after that, you still have North Dakota at North Dakota. That's a game to get Grant Nelson closer to home. Kent State and South Dakota State before you hit SEC play on January 4th against Oklahoma. So schedule is not easy. Also, last night, Monday Night Football, Tua and the Dolphins get a win. It wasn't the most beautiful game, but you know what they say in the NFL, kicking field goals, you're not going to win. The Rams kicked 5 field goals, got beat 23-15. Tua threw a couple touchdown passes and looked pretty good. I mean, it was not, like I said, it was not an offensive juggernaut of a game by any means on either side. Rams couldn't get touchdowns, and the Dolphins had an impressive first drive, but after that, they slacked off a little bit. But Tua was 20 of 28. I had said 2 touchdowns, 1 touchdown. Check that. 20 of 28 for 207 yards and 1 touchdown and 1 pick. Matthew Stafford threw for 293 yards. Rams actually outgained the Dolphins by a significant amount, 327. Dolphins had just 238 total yards, but Miami needed a win, and they got it. That gets them to 3-6 on the season. Still, behind the 8 ball, but a good win for the Dolphins last night. We had college basketball in Tuscaloosa besides Alabama. The Stillman women last night. Big rivalry game against Miles, and a nice win for Stillman over at the Birthright Alumni Hall, 74-66. Stillman women get a win. And, of course, tonight we've got the second edition of the College Football Playoff Rankings coming out on ESPN. We'll be looking forward to that. I'm sure I feel pretty confident Alabama will move into the top 10 after being 11 last week. I think the table has been set to get them even higher. NBA news, the Cavaliers won again last night over the Bulls. They're 12-0. That's an outstanding start to the season for sure. So those are some news. And one couple more things. Jalen Milroe, the AP Offensive Player of the SEC Offensive Player of the Week, and the AP National Player of the Week. Jahad Campbell was the SEC Defensive Player of the Week, and Tyler Booker was the SEC Offensive Lineman of the Week. When you have a dynamic game like Alabama did on the field, then you can expect the honors off the field to follow, and they certainly did. Of course, the Crimson Tide preparing for Mercer this Saturday at 1 o'clock. Interesting note on that game, that's the streaming game. No TV for that game. And we are going to be giving away a four-pack of family of tickets, courtesy of Striker Strong, Robbie Glenn, chairback seats. And we're going to go ahead and do that on, let's see, we're not going to wait to Friday. Let's go ahead and do that tomorrow or Thursday. What are you feeling, Chase, for our family four-pack of tickets? I got to figure out how I'm going to give them away, but we're going to give them away. We want to make sure somebody that wins them uses them now. They'll have to be transferred to your phone, so we'll know if you use them. We want to make sure we're going to get them in the hands of somebody that's going to use the tickets, okay? But let's go ahead and do that. You want to do it Thursday? A little closer to the game. We're going to do it on Thursday. But and I'll figure out the way that we're going to go about doing that. So, but that's something to look forward to. 4 tickets together, chairback seats, no TV for this game against Mercer. It's stream only. Of course, obviously, you can listen on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Chris Stewart, Tyler Watts, the whole team right here on Tide 100.9 FM and 95.3 The Bear. All right, it's 14 minutes after 9. We're off and running here on the Gary Harris Show. Actually, just turned to 9:15. The clock did 9:15. Drudy Army coming at 9:30. Bryce is holding on the hotline. Bryce, you hold. You're gonna lead us off on the phone calls when we come back on the other side. If you'd like to get involved in the program, 205-342-9904. We've also got Nate Oates discussing. He'll break down Alabama's game against McNeese State, and we'll have that for you coming up as well. This is the Gary Harris Show on Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM WTBC, your home for Alabama sports.
The Tuscaloosa Thread.
Good Tuesday morning. Ambulance service to Pickens County will end on December 1st. That's unless funding can be found. Currently, there is only one ambulance operating in the entire county, but a shortfall in funds will require patients to wait until an ambulance can respond from another county or a more expensive medevac helicopter flight. Residents say more people.
Tuesday night, live from Walk On Sports Bistro for Hillcrest Huddle. That's Brent Jones each week as the Hillcrest Patriots march towards the playoffs.
As much as Innisfree has evolved, it will always be that place to escape and have a good time. Whether it's for a game day weekend, to reminisce on college days, or to create new memories, if you're looking for a good time, there's only one thing to do. Head to the Free at 1925 University Boulevard. And don't forget about the Lucky Lunch Meat and 3 special. Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. until 2 p.m., get a meat and 3 vegetables for just $8.49. Or for a lighter appetite, try the Lucky Lunch soup, salad, or sandwich combo. I'll see you at the Free.
Life doesn't wait for when your finances are in perfect order. It just happens. But no matter what surprises come your way, Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages, and auto loans. They offer an easy application process and fast decisions so you can stay focused on feeling good about whatever life brings your way. Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages, and auto loans. Alabama Credit Union, loans for real life. Visit alabamacu.com to learn more. Some rules and restrictions apply. See if you're eligible for membership, then join today and feel good about your money.
Since 2011, Billy's Sports Grill, located on Main Avenue in historic downtown Northport, has been serving their legendary signature chicken sandwich, award-winning wings, and handcrafted cocktails. Billy's is also the spot to watch all your favorite sporting events with big screen, high-definition televisions in both dining rooms, at the bar, and out.
Today's repair and the future repairs. No overtime charges on weekends and holidays. No hassle guarantee. Adams Heating and Cooling, 205-872-0045.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Partly to mostly sunny today with a high at 74. Tonight fair, the low at 55. Tomorrow becoming cloudy. A good chance of rain by afternoon, the high 65. Thursday, cloudy with rain ending during the morning, the high at 67. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 63 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
You're listening to the Gary Harris Show. On your home for Alabama sports, Tide 100.9, and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
9:19. Welcome back into the Gary Harris. Gary Harris. So speaking of that basketball game last night, 72-64, Bama over at McNeese State. Grant Nelson really had a big game. Back in the starting lineup as he kind of has been working himself back from not being 100%. 22 points, 8 rebounds, and 3 assists. Really impressive game for him. Sears had 15, 5, and 3, 15 points, 15, 3, and 5, 15 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists. Reitzel, 15 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists. Those were the only 3 players in double figures. Let's jump out on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline and welcome in Bryce. Hey, Bryce.
Hey, good morning, Gary. Thanks for taking my call. Listen, I want to dive into football just a little bit.
Okay.
And then I'm going to get back to the basketball, and tell you my opinion about the basketball. Well, I think after Saturday night, this team has found a better combination in order to win the games. You know, I thought they had a great game plan the other night, and and they didn't try to do nothing fancy. Just whatever the defense gave Melrose, that's what he took. And I think that's the way we need to look going forward in order to prepare to win games. And I don't know what your opinion is, but I think our mutual friend is coming around on this team.
You're talking about the Cowboy.
And do that. Well, I can't say. I don't want him to get too excited. Okay.
Well, I can say.
I'm really impressed. And I'm trying to think of Womack's dad. I remember him, but I can't remember his name. And I want to say he was with Mississippi State with Jackie Sherrill. I may be wrong.
Do what now? Say that again.
Well, Womack's dad. What was his name and who was he with?
Yeah, Dave Womack is Kane's dad and longtime defensive coach. Grab that phone, please, Chase. And we've got. Phone ringing here, but you got Kane is highly influenced by his dad Dave. Dave is on the sideline during the games. Dave was defensive coordinator at Ole Miss and Southern Miss.
Yeah,
and, yeah.
I was thinking I'm getting him mixed up with somebody else. I thought it was Jackie Sherrill. I guess he's not that old, but he was at Ole Miss. Was he there when David Cutcliffe was there?
Dave Womack was there with Hugh Freeze. I know that. He might have had a 2 stints at Ole Miss. He's been around. He's a veteran coach. He's one of the guys that popularized the 4-2-5 that obviously that Kane runs as well. And I'm going to and he's spent time at Arkansas. All right, Dave has coached at Arkansas, Missouri, Southern Miss, Arkansas again, South Carolina. Georgia Tech, Arkansas State, Ole Miss. So he's been around like a lot of these coaches, not to mention UNLV, Southwest Missouri State. So he's been around a long time. But no, his time at Ole Miss was with Hugh Freeze.
Okay. Well, I remember that name, and I thought his name was Dave. When you said it, it would come back to me. But however, the basketball team, we're playing a lot of people. And the way I look at this, they find a way to win. They haven't lost yet, and they're trying a lot of different combinations to see which one's going to be the right fit for the starting 5. And that's where I see this basketball team. And I don't know what your opinion is. I'll let you give me your opinion about it, but that's why I see this team.
All right, Bryce, good to hear from you, my friend. Yeah, I think this basketball team is going to be fine. I do. I think that they're a team that it's just kind of, like I said, finding their chemistry, a lot of new players. I think they're going to be a lot better team in the spring than they are now. I got impacted a little bit by the fact that they came out and scored 110 in their first game. I did. And then since then, it's been a little bit of a different situation, but we'll know a lot more. Like I said, this schedule for a non-conference schedule, this thing is brutal. I mean, these next 6 games, even as good as Alabama is, it's not beyond the realm of belief that you could lose 2 or 3 of these games. I mean, you're at Purdue on Friday night. You're at North Carolina on December the 4th. You've still got to play, like I said, Illinois and Houston and Rutgers and Creighton. So, these next 6 games, Alabama they could win them all. They could be 9-0. They could be 7-2 or 6-3 or even 5-4. I'm telling you, this next stretch of games not going to be easy. All right, speaking of basketball, I know Robert was at the game last night from over in Birmingham. Hey, Robert, what you got?
Hey, buddy, how you doing?
Good.
Hey, that guy's call was exactly right. They're trying to figure some things out. Grant Nelson has figured it out, and he kind of figured it out last year, and that is don't come in the game when you first come in, jack it up threes, mix it up, get some rebounds, flop on the floor some, get some tip balls. That kind of gets him going, and then go out and shoot your threes. Mm-hmm. When he does that, it works for him. The other player that needs to take the same analogy is Stevenson. Stevenson's not a great three-point shooter. He won the North Carolina game for us because he got hot, but consistently free throws and outside shooting is not his strength right now. He should kind of do what Grant does: go to the hole, try to get more rebounds, and that'll open his game up. But he's still not very productive. But he gets a lot of minutes. And the big guy, Cliff, and last night, as coach said it after the game, the offense has got real stagnant last night. We were just kind of playing four guys out, and everybody just kind of
there's a lot of standing around. The spacing's not it. Yeah. You know, to piggyback on what you're saying, Robert, from what I've seen from this team, the spacing's not nearly as good. You're right. And there's always a tendency, you say don't, but that because of the way they play, there's always a tendency to get comfortable coming in and hiking up, the threes. And,
right.
But you've got to, it's got to be better ball movement. There's got to be better spacing. This team is feeling, you're right, they're feeling their way out, and they don't look nearly, obviously, as comfortable as that team last year, which was probably not as talented as this team, but the way that they played was just more in line. But that's up to the coaches to get them to do that now. I mean,
they'll figure it out. The last thing I'll let you got a guess coming up for the extra talent and the year what do you want to call it? We have all the influx of talent that's coming between freshmen and portal, plus the people that are still there. It's not showing up on the court yet, but it will. I have confidence it will. So does that make
it does. Makes a lot of sense. I mean, listen, where Alabama basketball is at right now, this is a program built for March. That's why Oates takes the schedule on that he takes on. There'd be a lot of coaches that would no way in the world play this schedule. I'm telling you right now.
Right.
But Oates understands, especially, after last year, you want to be as high a seed as you can, but the main thing is just to get in the tournament. And he wants to make sure that they're tough, battle-tested. And one thing about the way Oates schedules is you're never going to get in the tournament and be overwhelmed by your opposition because you're going to already play those caliber teams. And for a long time around here, Alabama didn't do that. Alabama sometimes would play a schedule that was not indicative of what they were going to face in the NCAA tournament. And now Alabama is a national team. They're built for March. But I do think they need to start playing a little bit better because, as I said, Robert, when you look at these next 6 games, it's conceivable that, you can lose 2 or 3 or 4 of those if you don't play well.
It's okay. Guess what? Last year we lost all of them, and we lost in the first round of the SEC tournament. And the committee still gave us a 4. We probably should have been a 5 seed, but they gave us a 4 seed just for scheduling it. So we're going to be fine. The worst case scenario this year will be a 4 seed. I think we'll be a 1, 2, or a 3. I'd say another thing that Cliff is used to posting up Clifford. What his name? The guy from Rutgers.
Yeah,
he's used to posting up on the block. And last night, a couple of times, he had guys due to switches. He had guys on him that were 4 foot, 5'2", and the team's just not used to ever throwing it to the post. It was kind of funny. There were 3 or 4 times where he was wide open, and we're so 3-centric, that we're not used to getting it to the guy on the block, like old school basketball. And that we gave up 3 or 4 baskets, and that's not a what do you want to call it? That's not something that Oates is going to harp on. But it was kind of funny. He was like had his hand in there, like old school, and like nobody passed it to him.
Yeah,
so
you're right. Well, they need to tweak it a little bit because you're right. Offensively, there's some things that they need to. And listen, they got to get the chemistry and the rotation settled in as well. So, all right, Robert.
They will. They'll figure it out. See you, man.
Thanks, buddy. All right, let's get to the timeout. Before we do, YMCA at Tuscaloosa. I'm headed over there today after my show. Great place to work out. Great community of people. You ought to become a member. 2300 13th Street downtown. YMCATuscaloosa.org or call 205-345-9622. Get by and let them show you around. They've got it all. Great workout facility, great locker rooms, daycare, Silver Sneakers program for
100.9 WTBC 1230 with Wyatt Fulton and Matt Coulter, presented by BMW of Tuscaloosa, Pearl River Resort and Casino, Tuscaloosa Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, and Walk-Ons.
If you haven't already, you've got to try Tuscaloosa's unique breakfast, brunch, and lunch concept. Brick and Spoon, downtown Tuscaloosa, Timerson Square. It's fresh food with a Cajun flair featuring a full bar with build-your-own Bloody Marys and mimosas. Open daily, 7 a.m. until 2 p.m. Available for
in Tuscaloosa. Or you can shop online at TuscaloosaCDJR.com. At Tuscaloosa Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram, you pick it out and we'll work it out. Roll Tide.
Los Tarascos has been serving Mexican favorites like burritos, fajitas, and quesadillas since 1999. Their new location is at 4100 Owen Parkway in Northport. And of course, you can find Los Tarascos in Tuscaloosa at 110 Skyland Boulevard. The bar areas feature big screen television so you can enjoy your favorite sporting events. Los Tarascos.
She's bundled her home and auto insurance with Progressive. Swish Ace Savings TKO.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states or situations.
The best station in the state, breaking down Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 9:31. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show, and you hear Elton John's Rocket Man playing on the show, and you know it's time for the Rocket Man himself, Drew DeArmond, 977 ESPN Radio in Huntsville, and joins us every Tuesday here to break down some Alabama sports. Good morning, Drew. How are you? How's it going?
Good, Gary. How are you?
Doing well. We're going to start with basketball since it was just last night, and Alabama gets the win, 72-64. It's early. We know this team is built for March, not for November, but couple of things that concern me. One, you had a 21-point lead, and they cut it back to single digits for the last several minutes, and got a little stressful there. Went through a long stretch where he couldn't make a field goal, get the win, much like Arkansas State. But with what's coming up over this next stretch they're about to hit, just didn't look as sharp. Some spacing issues, ball's not moving, still trying to figure out chemistry and a rotation. Just some takeaways that I had. What did you see from last night?
Well, the positive that I took is Grant Nelson continued to assert himself. And he certainly, especially on the defensive end of the floor, I thought was tremendous against Arkansas State. I mean, his mobility out on the perimeter, and then to be another rim protector and be able to guard guys inside and out, I thought was just huge. Yeah, he didn't have as big an offensive game in that game. I think he ended up with 12 and 6. Last night he ended up with 22 and 7. His three started to drop, and of course part of it is just shaking off the rust, because he's been hurt and not practicing. But definitely him settling in, I think, is very, very encouraging. No question about that. Watching Latrell Wright still get it going from three, because he had an uncharacteristic off-shooting night against Arkansas State, but he was 5 of 9 from three against McNeese. So that was good to see. Sears, once again, he didn't have a huge game last night, but you can always count on him to be able to manufacture buckets. They do need to turn down and clean up the turnovers. There was too many of those, and as you said, they had a 21-point lead, and they allowed McNeese to kind of hang around. So that's something you definitely need to work on. But overall, I thought it was a good win. Will Wade's got a really good team. He returned the majority of those guys, even though we're in the portal era. He returned the majority of them from a 31-4 team, and so they're going to be a heavy favorite, very likely in the Southland Conference. So you played two quality programs, and as we said, Arkansas State predicted to win the Sun Belt. There's nobody that knows Alabama better than Brian Hodgson. I actually took that as a big feather in the cap for Hodgson. I think he's one of the best young coaches in college basketball. And Nate Oates is already developing quite a coaching tree. But I thought it was a good win last night. Certainly, you would have liked it to have been a little prettier. It wasn't a Picasso. I thought they would end up being able to score 100 on McNeese State. But again, they've still got a lot of new pieces, especially on the defensive end of the floor as well with Cliff Amore. And don't forget, Aiden Sherrill. He's still kind of getting back into the swing of things because he's been hurt. So this is a team that, offensively and defensively is still kind of coming together and going to have to and meshing. But now, they've got to certainly get their minds right and get ready to play, because they have got as difficult a stretch coming up in the next 6 or 7 games as anybody in college basketball. There's not really a layup in there. They're going to be playing, a who's who of the top 25 programs, starting with the national championship game participant Purdue. Ironically, Auburn will play them as well, but it's going to be in West Lafayette, which is not an easy place to play on a Friday night, and they're certainly going to do that before embarking on the rest of the treacherous run, which will also include Houston again and North Carolina. So Alabama's got a lot of tests coming up, but again, like Nato said last night, he put the schedule together to see if they can compete against the best teams in the country, and we're certainly going to find that out. And again, you never apologize for winning. The one thing I will say, too, is I do think they're showing their potential of how good this team can be defensively. I think it already looks night and day better than a year ago. I even thought that in the Arkansas State game. They did have some trouble guarding the ball. As we saw Mark Sears have a little bit of trouble in the game defensively against Arkansas State. But again, I still say adversity can help you, especially if you can go through those situations and still win the basketball game. So I think Alabama's going to be okay. I'll be interested to see kind of what the rotation looks like when Youngblood gets back. But we've certainly learned that LeBaron Fallon is going to be a big part of this. I love Aiden Sherrell's, potential down the road, because I think he brings an element of athleticism and length and an ability to protect the rim at the position. I'm excited about him, no doubt about it. And then, of course, I do think that, with some of these other weapons that they have that are still kind of trying to acclimate themselves, like, Darion Reed didn't have a huge scoring game last night, but I still think his best basketball is ahead of him. So I'm just excited to see how these guys continue to settle in. And I do think that, with Brian Adams coming in, you can see the emphasis on the defensive end of the floor. And I think Cliff Amore is going to continue to get better also. I know he's had a very promising beginning, but the more comfortable he gets playing with these guys, the better it'll be. And certainly they're going to get their oil tested on Friday night.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And I said the same thing earlier in the show. There's just not many coaches that would take on a schedule like this in the pre-conference. This next 6-game stretch, as you alluded to, at Purdue, Illinois, Houston, Rutgers, at North Carolina, Creighton, and then, and going to North Dakota even, to get closer to home for Grant Nelson and Kent State and a South Dakota State team that's talented before you get into conference play. This is but this is the way Nate Oates does it. And he's like we've talked about, he's all about March. And one thing about Alabama is they're going to be battle tested. I think that's why they've done so well when they've gotten in the NCAA tournament, 2 Sweet 16s and a trip to the Final Four, Drew, is because you're never going to be overwhelmed. Now you gotta win enough games to make yourself, good enough to get in position, but you've seen it all by the time you get to March, right?
Yeah, you have, and you've seen different styles of basketball. I mean, Houston's a grown man kind of deal. They're going to be very, very physical. They're going to rebound the basketball. It's going to be like playing against the Tom Izzo team. And then, when you're playing against Illinois, they do a great job of pushing the basketball. They play fast. They like to play a high tempo, no doubt about it. And so that's another interesting style of play that you're going to experience, no question about it. And I think, and then going to the Dean Dome in North Carolina, that's going to, prepare you for when you go to Kentucky. Because again, when you go to the Dean Dome, and North Carolina recently lost, I think, a 92-89 game to number 1 Kansas. So, Hubert Davis and not to mention the fact that the last 2 times they played Alabama in the regular season 2 years ago, and then in the postseason in the NCAA tournament in the Sweet 16 round last year, they've lost to the Tide. So certainly North Carolina is going to be supremely motivated, but that's only going to help you down the road. It's only going to help you in SEC play, and getting a chance to look at these teams in to play different styles and different tempos, I think is going to be very, very beneficial to Alabama. And then you play what I call a system program on Friday night in Purdue, and my system, I totally, it's a sign of respect for what Matt Painter has been able to do. He's kind of, taking what Gene Keady built at Purdue and taking it to the next level, especially breaking through like he did last year and getting to the national championship game. Now, they've kind of become the developer and the harem for big men. They still do it the old school way. They develop 7-foot guys that are really good post players, and then they do a great job of building a team around the big. And right now they're 3-0, and certainly they're going to be very tough to play. But again, they're more of a half court style team, a team that gets it inside. It's old school. But now Alabama's better equipped to defend that with three guys: Cliff Amore, Grant Nelson, and Aiden Sherrill, and even Mohamed Diobate. So Alabama's still getting healthier as well. So I'm anxious to see them take on a team of caliber of Purdue. They've kind of had 3 warm-up games. Now we see kind of where this team is after the 2 quality exhibition wins. And hey, let's not forget, in the last few days, that Memphis team beat Missouri, and then I believe I saw last night or the night before. It escapes me, but I know they won. Wake Forest got a nice win over Michigan.
They did. Yeah.
Again, those were exhibition games, but still quality opponents Alabama's been playing.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, good synopsis on basketball. And now let's turn to football. And what we saw Saturday night, I called it the beat down on the Bayou. We've seen some impressive Alabama performances over the years at LSU. There's no doubt about it. But this was one of them. 42-13. It was literally 42-6 until the final seconds. And LSU, Kelly decided to keep Nussmeier out there, even though he took some shots, keep his first team offense out there to try to get a touchdown. And they did. But Alabama with a great plan and great execution in the rain. And when the game was still in doubt, Alabama always made the play that it had to make to keep LSU from getting close enough to make a game out of it. And just a lot of positivity now after a win like that, Drew, and what's on the table now for Alabama if they win these next 3. Really nice job on Saturday night in Baton Rouge.
Yeah, it was. It was the most complete performance of Kalen DeBoer's football program since he took over in Tuscaloosa, 42-13, and it was basically 42-6, and the backups were in there, but the touchdown didn't mean anything. But again, I think Alabama's getting better. That's the key. They've certainly gotten better defensively. We're starting to see that. And I'm hoping. I know it sounds strange to say 9 games in, but especially in this portal era with so many moving parts, hopefully they found their identity. I love the offensive plan. I love the way they got Milroe going with his legs, and then the short intermediate passing game, I thought Jalen, executed exceptionally well. The only thing he didn't execute was he missed 2 deep shot opportunities, and he's been very proficient at those throughout his career. But I think those will come as long as you keep executing properly. And my favorite part of the plan was the way that they involved the running backs in 3 different ways as blockers for Jalen Milroe as he cut off Jam and Miller and Justice Haynes with the zone reads and the quarterback powers, and then also as receivers. I thought they did a great job of circling the backs out of the backfield, and they were wide open behind the linebackers and in front of the DBs. And that's the one thing that I think the strength of Jam Miller and Justice Haynes, both of those guys can block, catch, and run the football. They can do it. They're very well rounded. So Alabama took full advantage of it. Now that the thing you stack and you want to build is you want to build consistency, you want to get the running game with those 2 guys going as well, and then you want I think also make sure that you continue to start connecting on these big play opportunities so you can put some teams away earlier. But I thought it was a great team win for Alabama in all 3 phases, and certainly you don't want to get too far ahead of yourself. You got to beat Mercer, you got to take care of them, but you do. You basically control what you can control. And if you look at the rankings, and we'll see the second version of them tonight, Gary, but as everything's unfolded, even with Vanderbilt losing, they lost to a South Carolina team, though, that Alabama, played down to the wire to, but that's playing very well. And then Tennessee, they're still a 1-loss team in the top 5. So Alabama's schedule strength looks really good. They've got the most top 25 wins out there. Somebody might need to tell Danny Cannell that. He seems to have a reading comprehension problem in some ways. But, again, they do have the most top 25 wins easily of anybody in college football. So right now, if they continue to win, they're going to be in. It's just how high a seed can they get? And trust me, Gary, it makes my head spin. If you look at a lot of these tiebreakers and what could be a log jam in the SEC, Alabama, has the fortunate, situation right now. If they win out, they'll win a lot of those tiebreakers. Now, is it going to be difficult to get to Atlanta? Yes, but it's not impossible. And the one thing I will say, I've said this yesterday, that it probably would be more beneficial for Alabama to miss the SEC championship game and get ready for the playoff. But I will say, Alabama's not going to run from the SEC championship game, because if you play in that game, instead of worrying about, if you lose it, are you still in? You need to worry about, or you need to focus on winning it. If you win it, you're going to have one of the top 4 seeds and get that bye that everybody wants so badly. So Alabama, that win in so many ways was very cathartic on Saturday night, and it opened a lot of doors for the Tide if they continue to play well and stay focused.
Yeah, and you go to Oklahoma next weekend, and then you go to you play the Iron Bowl against Auburn. But this Saturday in Tuscaloosa, you got Mercer coming in, and I know it's a Southern Conference team, but 9-1, and as Coach DeBoer said yesterday, lead their league in just about every statistical category. And I'm not by any means inferring that Alabama is going to lose the football game, but we've seen these kind of games before. If you don't get yourself ready to prepare, get yourself prepared during the week, these things can be a little trickier than you would like. I think it's always the a challenge for in a kind of a barometer of a program as far as can they get themselves ready to play in these kind of games. What do you think you'll see from Alabama this weekend?
Well, hopefully just systematic execution. Certainly Mercer is capable. They are 9-1. Their only loss was 55-35 to the Stanford Bulldogs. But I just want to see them continue to build on the offensive identity and the plan, continue to run Jalen Milroe, continue to build the passing game around his strengths, get the ball out of his hand quickly. Hopefully against Mercer also make some explosive vertical plays and gain more confidence in that aspect of the performance. And then again, have the offensive line continue to gel and come together. Because basically, especially with this expanded playoff, you're wanting to be the best version of yourself when the postseason hits. So you want to keep getting better every week and continue to stack days, and hopefully that's what you do. And then what I'd like to see is Alabama put the game away, and then by the middle of the third quarter be playing a lot of young guys, including Ty Simpson, get him some much needed reps with the even maybe with the first offense a little bit, and let him run the offense. Let him throw the football around, just to take a long look at him and get some guys that you could still redshirt some action. So it's going to be a very interesting afternoon, 1:00, on SEC Network Plus and things of that nature against Mercer. But again, hope to see a big crowd out there. And this is a senior class and even the juniors that I've only got 2 home games left. The season's flown by, but a lot to play for now for Alabama, a lot of excitement. And anytime you win on the road, and especially when you pay property taxes in Baton Rouge, means you got a good team still and a lot to play for. And I know Vandy losing last week wasn't ideal, but South Carolina, as I said earlier in the conversation, beat them. And they're playing as well as any team in the country right now. Boy, I'm sure they hate the fact that the officials took that LSU home win away from them, because they would be squarely in the playoff mix. But it also shows how wide open and unpredictable this SEC season has been. So Alabama doesn't need to, add to everybody's anxiety. They need to go out and take care of business on Saturday afternoon against the Mercer Bears.
Drew, big picture for the SEC. I think most of us feel like the SEC is going to get 4 teams in the final 12 for the playoff, the SEC champion and 3 other teams. There could be a kind of a mad scramble there at the end in regards to how it breaks down. I mean, how do you feel about Alabama if they finish 10-2, being in, and what if they have to go play in the SEC championship game? Is that a fly in the ointment? If you go over there and lose, you have a 3rd loss. And then even if you lose and you get in, then you got to turn around and play. Obviously, if you win that game, then you're the SEC champion. You get the championship and the bye. But what do you make of the SEC championship game on almost not being a positive. Clearly not a positive if you don't win it.
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess if you're a 2-loss team. Now, if you're undefeated, if you're a 1-loss team, I think you've got some margin for error. But again, I still take it as an opportunity to add, your 30th SEC championship and whatnot.
I agree.
To the trophy case, and you'd be playing tremendous football, and you would get a bye. That's the big carrot dangling in front of you. You wouldn't have to play the next week if you could win it. But again, it's going to be fascinating because the SEC does have a lot of really good teams. I think at worst they're going to get 4. I think that the people that need to be worried about SEC championship games and that nature are, again, ACC teams that maybe lose that championship game or that are just slightly on the outside looking in with 2 losses, and especially a group of 5 programs, because it pretty much guarantees to me that there's only going to be one representative from that group of 5, because the SEC and the Big Ten are too deep, especially the SEC, which is kind of cannibalizing itself. But again, I think the SEC championship game is still very, very significant. I think it can still be a springboard for you to win a championship if you get a bye. And now you don't get a home playoff game in the first round. That's a little disappointing in some ways. But again, a week off, a week away to recharge and get healthy, I don't think anyone would turn that down, and especially if you put a ring on your finger. So we'll see. But, in some ways I can see both arguments where you don't play in the SEC championship game and you feel like it benefits you. But then others, I mean, I just think you're Alabama. You're never going to run from it. They beat Georgia there last year. And let's not forget they're the SEC champ until somebody knocks them off. So it's going to be a very interesting next few weeks. But it's been an exciting college football season. A lot of conversation because of how wide open this SEC race has been. And it's been as wide open as any I can remember in a long time.
Yeah, it is. That is for sure. And we saw Georgia go down at Ole Miss, and we don't know what lies ahead over these final 3 weeks. It could shake up again. Hey, good stuff as always, Drew. And I know you're very, very busy with all the different shows that you do, and Tider Insider. But go ahead and let everybody know different platforms, different places that they can listen to you and read some of your stuff.
Yeah, they can go at Drew D 977 ESPN to my X account. Love the interaction. Also, our station is at 977 ESPN on X. And then all of our, if you missed Scott Tyson and I talking ball from 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Friday, certainly you can go back and listen on our SoundCloud page at 97.7 The Zone ESPN and then 977ESPN.com. But we always love being on the Gary Harris Show. And Gary, how crazy is this? Before the college football season began, Ohio State, Alabama, and Georgia all seem like locks for the college football playoff. And there's scenarios where all 3 of them could end up missing the playoff altogether. If Ohio State loses to Indiana, for example, if Georgia loses to Tennessee this weekend, certainly they're out. And Alabama has to navigate Mercer, Oklahoma, and the Iron Bowl, which is always a crazy game. This college football season has been pretty remarkable, and there could be some brands that people were not expecting to miss the playoff that might not even be there, period.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. It's chaotic for sure. Thank you, Drew.
Thank you, Gary.
All right, it's 9:54 here on the Gary Harris Show, and lunch is coming up quickly, and a lot of different places to eat lunch in Tuscaloosa. One of my favorites is Brick and Spoon downtown at Timerson Square. Breakfast, brunch, and lunch, and really cool place, outstanding service, man alive. You've got so many menu options, and I encourage you to get by and check them out 7 days a week. On the weekends, they're really, really bustling. A lot of people getting in there having those community. Come discover better living at First and Main. Visit firstandmaincondos.com or call 205-657-7465. Mention you heard about us on the radio and receive 1 month free rent.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Partly to mostly sunny today with a high at 74. Tonight fair, the low at 55. Tomorrow becoming cloudy. A good chance of rain by afternoon, the high 65. Thursday, cloudy with rain ending during the morning, the high at 67. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 64 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
covering University of Alabama sports, as well as the national and local scene as well. The Gary Harris Show, only on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 9:58. That's going to wrap it up for hour number one. It's been brought to you by Alabama Credit Union. Visit alabamacu.com to learn more. Alabama Credit Union. Loans for real life. Hour number two, we're guest free. Kayla Anderson will be with us tomorrow with the Tennessee Titans report. So let's get those phone calls going on the Pinnacle Park at North River hotline, 205-342-9904. We'll also hear from Nate Oates, Alabama basketball coach, following the win last night over at McNeese. And we'll get to some football audio from the Alabama coaches as well. That is coming up in the second hour of the Gary Harris Show here on Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM. WTBC, your home for Alabama sports.
WTBC Tuscaloosa and W265CG Tuscaloosa, a Town Square media station. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles, here's Monty Bolaños.
In the NFL, ESPN reports that Shane Waldron has been fired as the Bears offensive coordinator less than 10 months after being hired for the job. In Week 10, the Bears offense only put up 3 points against the Patriots. They have gone 23 consecutive possessions without scoring a touchdown. Offensive passing coordinator Thomas Brown has been promoted to offensive coordinator. Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott is scheduled to undergo surgery Wednesday on his injured hamstring and is officially out for the season, owner Jerry Jones announced. Week 10 of the NFL wrapped up with Monday Night Football as the Dolphins defeated the Rams in LA 23-15. Miami improves to 3-6 for the season. The Rams fall to 4-5. In the NBA, the Cavaliers are still undefeated. They took down the Bulls in Chicago 119-113. Donovan Mitchell led the way with 36 points. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had 45 points and 9 assists as OKC beat the Clippers 134-128.
365 24/7. You'll find road and utility crews, tow truck, law enforcement, and first responders working along Alabama's roadway.
We're making improvements and helping our communities stay connected.
We're working hard to make sure you're safe on the road. Now we need your help to make sure we're safe too.
Alabama's move over law requires you to move over a lane when you see flashing lights on the roadside. And if you can't safely move over, please slow down.
Visit DriveSafeAlabama.org, brought to you by the Alabama Department of Transportation, Alabama Broadcasters Association, and this station.
Serving part-time in the Army National Guard has led to a lot of firsts for me. It paid for me to be the first person in my family to go to school. That education got me to the first day at my dream job, which I can still hold while I serve part-time. That job and the home loan benefits I got from the Army National Guard helped me buy my first house.
Or Town Square Media Tuscaloosa radio websites. Fill out the Advertise Here form. Put the power of Town Square Media to work for your business.
The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV. Crimson Tide Kickoff. Play-by-play for Alabama sports and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, hour number two of the Gary Harris Show right here on Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM WTBC. Gary Harris, Chase Brumfeld, and guest free in the second hour. Again, a conflict for Kayla Anderson this morning, so she's going to join us tomorrow morning at 10:15. So it's just Chase and I holding down the fort. But you know what? I like it like this sometimes. It just kind of frees you up. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, I love guests. Don't get me wrong. You know that I try to book 2 or 3 every day, but humble brag, I guess. You know, I talk for a living. I think I'm pretty good at it, so I can carry a show without any guests if I need to. Hey, we're going to get to Nate Oates here in just a moment, but first, couple of notes on 2 college football coaches passing away basically at the same time, at the same age. And I met one of them, John Robinson, who was a great football coach at the University of Southern California, had some great games against Coach Bryant in Alabama, head coach of the Los Angeles Rams, and was just always – I always loved watching those USC teams that he coached, and he was the coach of the Rams when my friend Marcus Dupree made a comeback. I've had Marcus on the show before. I knew him from my time in Mississippi. Of course, arguably the greatest high school running back ever. Signed with Oklahoma after 1 year. Left, was going to enroll at Southern Miss, never did. Wound up going to the New Orleans Breakers when he was 19 years old. Tore up his knee while playing in the USFL, sat out 3 years, ballooned to 300 pounds, and then in 1990 made a decision to try to make it into the NFL. And this was, several years after he played football. I guess he'd not played football since, maybe the 84, 85 season in the USFL. Got himself in shape, and even with a torn up knee, he made the Los Angeles Rams roster. That's how good Marcus Dupree was. Got himself back in. I remember doing a story on him, and he had one of those aluminum sheds out behind his grandmother's house, and he put those electric heaters in there, and he would heat that up, Chase, to like 115 degrees, and he would work out in there, and he would work out lifting. And anyway, but John Robinson was his coach, and so that was an interesting tidbit. And then a number of years ago, this was probably, I don't know, Rodney Orr and I think Saban was the coach. So, yeah, Saban was the coach. So it had to be since 2007. So it's probably around, I imagine it was probably around 2009, 2010, something like that. Rodney Orr from Tyler Insider and I were in the press box at Alabama for a game, and I see this guy standing over there talking to somebody, and hardly anybody knew who he was. I told Rodney, I said, that's John Robinson. And he was doing radio for I guess, Mutual Broadcasting or somebody for the game, but not a lot of people recognized him or even knew who he was, but I did. And Rodney and I walked over there, and Chase, he engaged with us for about 10 minutes, man. It was a great conversation. And he talked with us about Coach Bryant, and he talked to us about his career and just really a gentleman. And if he died at 89, which he did, then he probably was 75 or so then. Because like I said, this is probably 76, somewhere there. This is probably 13, 14 years ago. And but I remember that very, very well. And it was just amazing to me that very few people knew who he was, but I did. And Rodney and I got to talk with him, and he appreciated the fact that we came over to him and knew who he was, and he told us some great stories about USC playing those Alabama teams with Coach Bryant. He passed away at the age of 89. Also passing away at the age of 89, another equally famous college coach for very different reasons. John Robinson was a very successful college coach and NFL coach. Jerry Faust was a very successful high school coach at Cincinnati Moeller, built a powerhouse there in the 1970s. He was hired to be the head football coach at Notre Dame, straight from high school in 1981. And failed miserably. Even though he'd gone 174, 17, and 2 at Moeller High School and had dreamed of always being the head coach at Notre Dame and got that opportunity, it was too big for him. He could not handle it. And he didn't do well. I'm trying to find his record at Notre Dame. Let's see here. Yeah, his last season was 1985, and he only won one bowl game. There it is. Yeah. Let's see. He went Well, I'm trying to find the exact record here, but anyway, he didn't do well, and you got it, Jay.
Yeah, he finished 30 wins, 26 losses, and 1 tie.
Yeah, so it's like at Alabama. If you're barely over 500, that's not considered successful. But the thing I always noticed about him and never met him was he was a class act, and even after he failed at Notre Dame as a coach, he always said he wouldn't have changed it for anything. Even if he know the record was, he said he only had 26 bad days at what'd you say the record was?
30 wins and 26 losses.
Yeah. He said he only had 26 bad days at Notre Dame, and those were the 26 days that he lost the game. He said the rest of it, he loved it, and he went on after coaching at Notre Dame. He coached. Well, you got his Wikipedia page. Check it and see if it was Akron where he coached again, because I'm reading a story about him, but it's not giving a lot of information. I think he went on to coach at Akron. Is that correct? Yeah, went on to coach at Akron, and again, if I remember correctly, didn't have a great record there, but coached there, and so he passed away, ironically, at the age of 89 as well. So 2 football coaches that, if you're my age and I'm 60, or if you're a football fan you would know the names Jerry Faust and John Robinson. And if you're Chase's age, you may not. But Chase is learning about them this morning. And I just wanted to point that out because I had that memorable conversation with John Robinson and obviously remember following Jerry Faust. That was a huge story. Huge story. After Dan Devine announced that 1980 would be his last season as the head coach at Notre Dame. And when Jerry Faust got that job, it was, to go from high school to not just a college job, but arguably at that time, right there, Notre Dame, Alabama, Michigan, USC, Penn State, Texas, Oklahoma, an iconic job. Ohio State would be in that category. But maybe then in 1980 might be the most iconic job of them all. Notre Dame in 1980 was viewed a lot differently than Notre Dame is viewed now in 2024. It's still a great job, but at that time Notre Dame was probably the job in college football. So, and an interesting note too that, and I thank Cowboy for texting me this. I know it, but I was just focused on Faust. Coach Moore, Mal Moore, after he was let go by Ray Perkins at Alabama as the offensive coordinator, when Ray Perkins came in and followed Coach Bryant, Mal Moore was hired to be Jerry Faust offensive coordinator at Notre Dame. And Coach Moore would speak glowingly of his time at Notre Dame, and because I talked to him about it, and also spoke very, very highly of Jerry Faust, who by all accounts was a great gentleman. So a couple of iconic college football coaches passing away, and it's a reminder of our mortality. As I said, I grew up, being aware of these guys, and of course, you live to be 89. That's a full life. That's a full life. But we're losing more and more coaches that, as someone who's now 60 years old, that I grew up, watching and following, and so anyway. All right, it's 10:13 here on the Gary Harris Show. We're going to get to a timeout. When we come back on the other side, I want to play the Nate Oates audio for you from last night, as he breaks it down very, very well. That's one thing I love about Coach Oates. He gets into, he tells exactly what he thinks. He'll talk about what happened last night against McNeese, why McNeese was able to come back from 21 down and, get it to single digits, and outscored Alabama in the second half, actually 34-31. So we'll have head coach Nate Oates, Alabama basketball, coming up on the other side. This is the Gary Harris Show.
Maracas smell amazing. Actually, Jim, most noses call them Gain Scent Beads. Try Gain Scent Beads. Way fresher than detergent alone.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Partly to mostly sunny today with a high at 74. Tonight fair, the low at 55. Tomorrow becoming cloudy. A good chance of rain by afternoon, the high 65. Thursday, cloudy with rain ending during the morning, the high at 67. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 69 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Follow the Crimson Tide on their journey to another national championship. Touchdown, Alabama! On your home for Alabama sports, Tide 100.9, and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
10:17. I got a correction to make, and thanks to Rodney Orr for correcting me. I texted Rodney and I said, "Hey, I just told our John Robinson story," and I said, "What was that? 10, 12 years ago?" And Rodney corrected me. He was already 83 years old. Rodney said, "No, it was 6 years ago, 2018 Missouri game." So John Robinson was 83. But he was doing that was either Westwood One or Mutual Broadcasting or somebody. But he was doing the game for radio. So just 6 years ago, that's how the years just run together for me. I was thinking it was 10, 12 years ago. But just 6 years ago at the Missouri game, 2018, is when Rodney and I had our conversation with the late John Robinson, who, as I said, was just so pleasant to us. Again, it's weird. Of course, as a sportscaster, I've had the opportunity to interview a lot of different people and meet some great people. And it's much like a fan. When you meet someone who is well-known, famous, whatever you want to refer to it as, Chase, your opinion can be completely changed by them if they're not pleasant, and there are some interactions that aren't pleasant, whether you're a broadcaster, a journalist, or a fan. And I've always thought that, how hard is it to be nice to someone? So when somebody's really nice and pleasant, you just have a really good vibe about them. And then when they pass, you're like, man, I have good thoughts. But if somebody was harsh or not accommodating, you may say, hey, so-and-so passed away, but you won't have a good feeling about that person. You know what I mean? So anyway, John Robinson. All right, let's get to Nate Oates. Last night, Alabama basketball does get the win, 72-64. And like Drew said, and I've said this many times, you don't ever apologize for winning. But it was not a great game for Alabama. First half, they were not bad, up 41-30, and then they opened it up to 21 points early in the second half, and you're thinking, Alabama's going to score probably around 85 points in this game, win it by about 20. Didn't happen. 72-64 final. Here's Alabama head coach Nate Oates following the victory last night over the Cowboys at McNeese State.
Played two really good mid-major teams. They tested us on both games. I think it's going to be great for us moving forward. I'd like to see us pull away a little bit. We got up 21 on them, early in the second half. And then I thought McNeese, you got to give them a ton of credit. When we got up 21, they didn't cave. They didn't quit. They kept fighting. They ended up out-rebounding us on the offensive side. They had 12 old boards to our 10 in the first half. We were really on it. They kept us off the old boards in the second half, and they got them. I thought they played really hard. I think it's good for our guys to go against different types of playing styles. I thought the press with the switching everything, stagnated our offense. We made one out of our last 9 threes. I thought the second half, particularly the last probably 14 minutes of the game, they did a really good job taking us out of what we wanted to do. I thought we played way too slow. Thought, and the ball ended up getting to the right place at times, but way too late in the clock. We played down in the last 10 seconds of the shot clock way more often than we'd like to do. So, but again, we knew they were going to be a good team. We knew they were going to be really athletic. Those guys are going to beat a lot of good teams this year. They're picked to win their league for a reason. You got to give them a ton of credit. They made a lot of tough shots. We chart the stuff. They shot 11 of 22 on non-rim twos, and most of them were pretty contested. So, they kind of defied the percentages there a little bit, and you just got to give them a ton of credit for how hard they played and how they stayed in there.
Yeah, Nate, how would you assess just the movement on offense you're seeing overall from your guys and how they're kind of carrying themselves on the floor?
Not good enough. This game I didn't like it. I thought it took us, we didn't play with pop. We didn't push the ball off the floor enough. We ended up with 68 possessions on offense. If you look at, I don't have the exact numbers in my head right now, but the 4 previous games, if you count the 2 exhibitions, I think we were in the 80s on maybe 3 of them, maybe all 4 of them. So I think Memphis was high 80s. So, to have 20 less possessions, that's not really how we're trying to play. Now, good thing is Purdue's going to slow it down, I'd guess, knowing what their playing style has been for a long time up there. So, we're going to have to win some games where the other team tries to slow it down. We're just going to have to be a lot more efficient in the possessions we get. But they switched. We stood there. We stared at it. We held the ball too long. I didn't think we had very good ball movement tonight. We ended up with a decent assist rate. I think 73% of our field goals, we had 16 assists on 22 field goals. So it ended up being decent. And I think a lot of times we went to the free throw line was off what would have been an assist if we'd have made a field goal. So I thought as the possession wore on, we ended up, I didn't think we were selfish. I just didn't think we moved the ball enough. We just sat there and stared at the switch and didn't move it quick enough.
Yeah, Coach, just defensively, what have they shown you on that side of the ball so far this year, and just how much trust do you have in them in late game situations whenever you need to stop?
I mean, I thought we did a fairly decent job for a majority of the game. I think we've got different options we can go to. I thought Cliff came alive there. We just had him down, 3 blocks. Yeah, he had, when we put him back in there in the second half, I thought he did pretty well, and then they were kind of starting to get downhill against his drop, so we put Jaron and Grant at the 4 and 5 and switched. We've got different options. I thought Reitzel was really good. You look at plus minus, Reitzel led the team with plus 17, and then Jaron, even though he didn't shoot it well particularly, he was a plus 16 when he was in the game. So, if you look at our defensive leverage numbers, like Trelly was high, we were a lot better with him in the game. Mark's consistently had positive defensive leverage, which is great for Mark because, that's a big point of emphasis with him this year, and I think he's been good at it. Jaron, we were better with him in the game. Mo Diabate, you expect that, but Terrion Reed, we were able to put him in late. So we've got, some tough, athletic wing forwards that we can put in and be pretty versatile, or you can go with a rim protector like Cliff, depending on what the other team's got going and who they've got in. So defensively, we haven't been bad. I mean, this team's going to put up some numbers on some teams. They're going to get to the old boards and kill some teams. You saw they got some guys that can make tough shots. So I didn't think defense was necessarily a problem. I did think the defensive glass in the second half was a little bit of an issue. But I thought offense was more our issue tonight.
Yeah, coming out of these 3 games, just how do you feel about your team? And then also just what's the biggest, takeaway or the thing that you learned from these first 3 games about your team?
Our upside tie, I think we all knew. We also learned that if we don't play with a competitive edge, we're not all that special. We've got to have a competitive edge. The ball's got to move. We got to play the way we know how to play, and we're pretty good. But 2 mid-major teams that are very good for their level. I haven't seen a mid-major poll. My guess would be these 2 would be in the top 5, I would think. I don't want to speak out of turn on that, but I think they're both highly talented, play hard, well coached. But we played 2 mid-major teams that, Arkansas State, we were tied with 7 to go, and McNeese cut the thing to 6 there late in the second half. So if we don't play the right way with a competitive edge and a fire, and we chart the blue collar every 4 minute, we call them 4 minute wars. We lost the last 4 of the game. So we were up on them. We didn't lose 1 in the first 6. We lost the last 4. So after we got up 21 with 14 to go, that under 16, under 12 4-minute deal, we lost the blue collar battle there. Then we lost it the next one, then we lost the next one, and then we lost the last one. So I didn't think our effort was great once we got a 21-point lead, and that's an issue. We've got to be competitive no matter what the scoreboard is, and I think both games we get up 16 on Arkansas State, let them cut it to 3 at the half. They end up tying it with 7 to go. We get up 21 on this team, and they end up cutting it to 6. We've got to do a better job playing hard and competitive with a lead.
Nate, obviously Grant, big first half from him, gets 22 points. Another step up from what we saw from him just in the last game. How big has his improvement been, and just having a guy like that coming back to carry a team in a frustrating game like this, how big is that for you guys?
No, it's huge. I mean, you know, he had some great games last year. You think of the North Carolina game. I mean, huge impact in that game. You know, this was a game, if he doesn't play as well as he did, we may not win the game. So it's great to have him. I think people forget he missed the entire summer because he had an injury. Then he got another injury and missed both exhibition games and missed about a month of practice. So he's just now getting back into rhythm. I think he looks like he's back to close to 100% to me after that game. So it's good to get him back there. You know, I think a combination of him being aggressive on offense, shooting it well. You know, he hit those 2 threes, going to the free throw line, converting at the free throw line. And then he led us with rebounds with 8. You know, he had 22 and 8. I thought his energy was great. So, you know, we're going to need that out of him moving forward on a pretty consistent basis.
You mentioned playing 2 tough mid-major teams with coaches obviously you're familiar with. What do you guys gain out of playing a team like McNeese?
Yeah, I think you get exposed on some stuff that if you just played a bad mid to low major team that can't really test you, you think everything's fine. Well, I think we all know everything's not fine. Like, we had plenty of stuff we got to work on after tonight. So it's a little easier, you know, when you don't blow a team out. You know, we only beat this team by 8 to get you guys' attention and show them what you got to work on. Our defensive rebounding is a problem. Our turnovers are a major problem. We had 15 again tonight, so that's an issue. You know, attacking, switching defenses, I thought we'd do a lot better at it. We didn't. So we got to go through that. Letting the press slow us down, that was a problem. So, you know, they exposed us on multiple levels that we can now work on before we get into league play. That's been my philosophy ever since I've got here. Schedule a really tough non-league schedule so that you can figure out all the issues you possibly can and be ready to play come SEC play. So I love the fact that McNeese and Arkansas State challenged us. They're both going to make us better. And now we got our first true road game up at Purdue, and they're obviously really good. I believe they're picked to win the Big Ten, and we battled them pretty well up in Toronto last year. They got a little bit different look, as do we. So, they've got one of the best home environments in the country from what I've heard. I've never been there, but, you know, this is why we play these games. You know, this is why the guys work. This is why we like to do it. We like to play some of the best teams in the country, as evidenced by the next 7 games here with who we're playing. And I want to see where we stand against the best in the country, and this will be a good test for us on Friday.
Hey, Coach. Latrell hit some big threes tonight, kind of pulling himself out of a shooting slump that he was in to start the season and hitting that big one late, which pulled the team out of a slump. Can you kind of talk about, like, the impact you saw from him tonight and what his role is going forward?
Yeah, I mean, this is what we expected him to be. I think he's another one that missed the exhibitions with an injury, so he's just now getting back into his rhythm. You know, the 1 for 9, that's not him last game. Some of those were good shots he just missed. Some of them, you know, you got to get a feel for what's a good shot, what's not. Some of that's hard to do if you're not practicing. Like, he was out a month, so I thought he had a lot better feel. I thought he turned down somebody I wished he would have taken. As well as he was shooting it tonight, there was 3 or 4 he should have shot, I thought. So, and, you know, if he'd have taken 3 or 4 more and get 12 or 13 threes up, that'd be great, because he's one of the best shooters in the country, in my opinion. So we're going to, you know, last year at Mississippi State, we yanked him when he turned one down, and then he came in and hit one. Like, he turned some down. Holloway turned some down. I don't really care, you know, that Trelly was 5 of 9 and Holloway was 0 for 5. They're both great shooters, and they both can't turn down open shots. But it was great that Trelly hit those early, got us going. We needed them. That helped build the lead up to 21 when we had it up. You know, part of the lead getting cut, we didn't execute on offense as well as we need to. Some of it we just missed some shots too. So, you know, that goes with it. It's ebb and flow of basketball games. You miss some shots, but to get outdone on the blue collar stuff, the effort stuff for the last 4 4-minute battles was a little bit of my issue. But we just got to get some more boards when guys are missing. But Charlie played 31 minutes. He led us in plus minus. We were plus 17 when he was in. We needed him to play as well on both sides of the ball as he did tonight. It's great to have him back. It looks like he's pretty well back, him and Grant both. All right, appreciate you guys.
All right, great stuff from Nate Oates. Like I said prior to his comments, he is such a straight shooter now. He tells you exactly what he thinks. There's no coach speak with him. It's direct, and he a lot of things about that game last night he wasn't pleased about. And listen, Friday night at Purdue, everything coach said, West Lafayette, the atmosphere that they're going to face there, it is going to be a tough game for the Crimson Tide, and they're going to need to play better. And we'll see what they're able to do on Friday night. All right, it's 10:32 here on the Gary Harris Show, and we're going to take a timeout, wide open for phone calls from here on out. Going to get back on the football conversation next. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the challenge of playing this game against Mercer after you just have a huge win at Baton Rouge, and the fact that Mercer can make life a little difficult if you're not ready to go. I'm not saying this is going to be a Vanderbilt situation, but what I am saying is that we've seen it before with some of these FCS teams.
I'll still be making the plays. You'll be making the bets. And finally getting the sports glory you deserve. The Sportsbook at Golden Moon Casino. Play the game.
Are you receiving unemployment? Your benefits could be at risk. Here's how you can protect yourself and your benefits. Never respond to mail notifying you of a false claim in your name. Never answer a text message asking you to verify your account. And only respond to official Alabama Department of Labor's social media pages. Report fraud at labor.alabama.gov/fraud.
At RexMD.com, we've made the process fast, easy, and affordable. Visit RexMD.com right now to get started. That's REXMD.com.
You see him on WVUA 23 covering sports and on Tider Insider TV on Tuesday nights. Don't miss a minute of the Gary Harris Show. Weekdays from 9 to 11 on Tide 100.9.
All right, 10:37, welcome back in. We're going to get a couple phone calls here in just a moment. First, though, as I said, Rodney Orr reminded me that our meeting with John Robinson was just 6 years ago, as he was doing color analysis, as I said, for, I guess it was either Westwood One or Mutual Broadcasting or somebody like that at the Alabama-Missouri game. But Rodney shared this story with me. If you recall, I mentioned to him, talking about Coach Robinson, that my first in-person Alabama game was 1978 versus his USC team. I asked him if anything from that game that stood out to him. He said that the thing that he remembered most was the post-game handshake with Coach Bryant. He mentioned that Coach Bryant was physically big, intimidating figure when they met at midfield. Coach Bryant said, "John, y'all just beat the SHIT out of us." Robinson said he was so intimidated he didn't know whether to thank him or apologize. So that's a great story from Rodney Orr that Coach Robinson told us. All right, let's jump out on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline. And we're going to get to JR and then to Robbie Glenn. All right, good morning, JR. How are you?
Good morning, Gary. A couple of questions for you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm having a little issue on the receiving end.
Yeah, you got a little static, but I can make it out.
Okay, good. Same way here. I was going to ask you real quick. This is just a question. When do they start the blue collar term in basketball? In describing the blue collar issue.
Yeah, it's something that Coach Oates brought with him, and he's got a whole formula that he uses to track those blue collar points, both team wise and how the other team did, and also for individuals. And they give out a blue collar hard hit award after every game. It's just something that he believes in regards to, it may not be like football where it's full contact, but it is a physical sport, and he wants his team to get after those balls.
Okay.
Yeah, that's that. So he kind of that's just part of who they are. Yeah.
Well, all right. I was just wondering, it was something I hadn't heard until this year, and maybe he had said it before last year.
He's done it since he got here, JR. Yeah.
Well, I've not been a big listener to the after the game stuff. So I'm sorry.
It's something. Yeah, he implemented it immediately. They've done the blue collar and the hard hat award since he's been here. Yep.
All right. Well, you know me. I'm football.
Oh yeah. Nothing wrong with that.
But anyway, speaking of which, we got a big hard game this weekend.
Got what now?
we got us a tough game this weekend, don't we?
I was going to talk a little bit about that anyway. It's a game where you'll be challenged a little bit after coming off a kind of win that you had in Baton Rouge, knowing you got Oklahoma and Auburn to finish the regular season, and here's this game against a team from the FCS, from the Southern Conference, but they're 9-1. They're a good team, a great team at their level, and you have.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Sort of like the way Alabama basketball did this against I can't say McNeese State. Yeah, and so I would hate to see them kind of go into the game with that attitude, because I think that's all that happened with Alabama basketball. I hope so. Because they just kind of went in with that attitude.
It's human nature. You battle against it, but it's human nature sometimes to have a letdown after you've had a win like they had, and you look at that opponent and you don't get your juices don't get flowing. That's just the reality of it. You don't. If you're an Alabama football player, you just went to Baton Rouge and waylaid LSU, and now you got Mercer at home. You got to have the discipline and the focus to prepare, because you're not going to look at Mercer and get excited. You're just not. I mean, that's just the nature of it. It's like that's what Nick Saban always talked about. That's what discipline is, doing what doing what needs to be done, even when you don't want to do it. And that's what this team needs to do this week to prepare. And that's what really good teams do, is they focus and prepare, like Saban talked about, to a standard, regardless of the opponent, regardless of the score. And that's what you're trying to get this team to do. So hopefully they'll be sharp on Saturday and look good. And then we get ready to wrap this thing up and hopefully get in the playoff and have a chance to win another national championship.
Speaking of playoff, we're not going to. We have a chance at the SEC championship.
Very much so. Very much so. Alabama's right in the mix now.
A lot of things going to happen.
I don't know that a lot of things have to happen. I mean, you just have to have several teams with 2 losses, and then you get into that tiebreaker. And Alabama's got some good wins in the SEC. So I mean, it's still open. I mean, you could have a situation where every team in this league, not every team, but the top teams all have 2 losses. Now, obviously, if there's a 1-loss team, and right now Texas is a 1-loss team, Tennessee's a 1-loss team, A&M's a 1-loss team, but Texas A&M play each other, so one of those teams are going to have 2 losses. Obviously, Tennessee's got to go to Georgia this weekend, so that'll be a challenge for them. So you can wind up having a bunch of 2-loss teams, and then it just goes to a tiebreaker formula. But yeah, Alabama could very well make it to Atlanta.
Well, I hope so. It'd be nice, especially after like you said, the 2 losses.
Yeah, but, I love winning SEC championships, and like Drew said, it'd be a chance to win 30, which is by far and away more than anybody else in this league. At the same time, if you can get to 10-2 and you feel like you're going to be in the playoff, it might be an advantage not to play in that game. Who knows? So, but we'll see how it plays out either way.
Well, I appreciate you, Gary.
All right, thank you, JR. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure to hear from you. All right, let's get to Robbie Glenn from Striker Strong, who's providing us with our family 4-pack of tickets that we're giving away Thursday, chair back seats, and of course, obviously, I love talking to Robbie, who's a big supporter of the show, and we're a big supporter of StrikerStrong.org. Good morning, Robbie.
Good morning, Gary. You doing okay today on Tuesday?
Yeah, man, doing well.
Good. Yeah, last night's game a little, but as expected, you're playing against a good mid-major team, and you hate to lose the intensity there in the second half, which you can't have. But it happens, especially when you're looking ahead, and I'm sure they are getting ready to go to Purdue and play a big game there. And it's common nature, and I hate it because it got me a little worried them coming back like that. But they found a way to win it, and that's the main thing. And now we got the football this week. Same thing. You got Mercer. Yeah, they're 9-1. Should handle them, but this is the game you got to keep your focus, or this is where injuries happen. If you're not focused every play, little stupid stuff can help and hurt you. Not to mention this is we got 2 home games left, Mercer and Auburn. So these guys got to take some pride in that and hopefully go out there and put this game away early and get ready for Oklahoma.
Yeah, you do. And I tell you what you really hope too, Robbie, this playing as a college athlete, is you can't do anything about what's happened already, but you can learn from it. And this is a little bit of a different scenario. Vanderbilt's an SEC team. It was on the road, but I think you and I would agree that, and I said that week, I said, we'll find out on Saturday if Alabama prepared well for this game. You'll see the result. But I think it's pretty obvious that they did not respect Vanderbilt. coming off that Georgia win. They thought they were going to roll in there and just show up and be Alabama. They hadn't lost to that team in 40 years. And it bit them in the rear end. And hopefully you learn from that too. And the coaches can use that as an example to say, hey, if you're not ready to go, and if you don't put the work in and we don't prepare the right way, we could look up Saturday in the second half against Mercer and be in a ball game. I mean, as you know, you can't wait. Like all the coaches always say, everybody wants to play the game. You know, everybody wants to win. Everybody wants to go out on Saturday and play well, but you're not going to play well and you're not going to get the result you want if you don't put the work in during the week. And I'm going to be interested to see how this team handles its business coming off that huge win against LSU. I think most Alabama fans are. And I think it's a good sign if you come out here and, you know, this is a 31-10 game at half, and Alabama goes on and wins this thing, let's say 48-13 or 48-17. But if you look up in the third quarter, and it's 20-10. You know, that's not going to be something I think Alabama fans are going to want to see, because that's going to tell you right there what we're talking about, that they did not do what they needed to do to play their best on Saturday. Because if they play their best, they're going to blow this team out. You know, but if they don't, Mercer could hang around.
Yeah, they can. Like you said, what did Coach Saban always say? You think this game doesn't matter, mess around and lose it and see how much it matters.
That's right. I mean, they're all big. So, and with where Alabama's at, because you're focused on the SEC games, but this is just this is a playoff game too. I mean, you know, God forbid you lose this one, because you lose this one, you know you're not going to the playoff, no matter whether you go to Atlanta or not. So, yeah. So
and we need style points. It doesn't matter who you're playing. We need to show that we are legit and our offense is clear. And that was good to see against LSU, because I tell you what, Milroe looked like a whole new guy after that bye week.
He did.
Looked like whatever was hurting him wasn't hurting him, because he had some serious speed again.
He did. He was getting downhill, and man, when he breaks free, it's like a Derrick Henry thing, dude. You see how big he is, and you know nobody's going to catch him. It's pretty impressive.
Yep. He was awesome. And like you said, giving away the 4 tickets on your show, and I hope somebody that's, you know, never been to a game or been to it, but I know you had some callers that had called in before.
Yeah, we had some people call in and say that they had never had an opportunity to go to a game. So this will be a chance to win some tickets. And as we said earlier, Robbie, the only thing we require is make sure that if you win the tickets that you use them. And of course we'll know, because you have them on your phone. You'll transfer them directly, and we'll know if they get used. So that's the big thing. Don't win them and then call me up after the show and say, well, I don't think I'm going to be able to go. I don't need that. I don't. If you can't.
They got to be scanned.
Yeah, if you can't go, don't try to win them, because we're going to give them away on Thursday. So, and, you know, if you win them, then I'll let Robbie know your phone number, and he'll transfer you the tickets on behalf of StrikerStrong.org, and you can go enjoy the game with 4 people. Great for a family, chairback seats. So take advantage of this opportunity, but do use the tickets if you win them. All right, and if something happens, something comes up, and you can't use them, then by all means let me know, and we'll get them to somebody else. But don't win them. Try to win them if you don't think you can go in the first place.
Yeah, something always comes up, and if you can't, they'll be on your phone. Make sure you get them to somebody that goes in your family or whatever.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
I mean, they're transferable.
Yep.
So, but it's going to be a great environment. I hope everybody. It looks like the weather's going to be good. So. Now, Thursday, I'll be at Children's Hospital for a follow-up doctor's appointment with Striker, and so I'll be trying to listen on my earpiece, but my wife gets mad at me if I start talking on my phone a little bit when doctors are talking. So I'll try to listen, but you'll text me and tell me who to get them to, and I'll be glad to.
We sure will. Thank you, Robbie.
Thank you, Gary. Roll Tide.
All right, buddy. Let's go ahead and squeeze in one more phone call before we hit the break, and we can come back and close it out with we don't need a lot of time in the final segment, so we'll get to Philip. Hey, Philip, good morning.
Hey, Gary, how you doing, man? I was going to tell you, I love your comments about the Mercer game. That's so spot on, and it happens all the time. You know, a team comes off a huge win like Alabama had this past week, but the players, for whatever reason, they're just not quite ready when they get off that bus Saturday. And it's a game that, if they're not careful, could be just like what you described. You get into the third quarter after you get settled from getting your drink at the concession stand, and it's 17-9, and you're behind.
Mm-hmm. That's right. I mean, it can.
DeBoer can only mention it so much. He can only mention it so much. You've got to find it within to take care of business as a player.
Yeah, you do. Ultimately, it's your responsibility to get yourself ready to play, and there's no doubt about that. And I am really hopeful that that Alabama comes out and makes quick work of this team. I really am. I think, like I said, I'd love to look up. I'll be at the game, obviously. I'd love to look up late in the second quarter and Bama already be up about 24 points in this one. And, not having to really worry much about it. But I do, as you have pointed out, Philip, we both recognize that you lollygag around, and they're talented enough and good enough and motivated enough to keep it interesting, and that's not what you want. I mean, you'd really rather have this game wrapped up by the end of the third quarter. So in that fourth quarter, you're playing backups, and you're already focused on those last two SEC games, and you're not worried. You're trying to get people out so there's no chance for an injury. Losing Q Robinson is a big blow to this team. Blow. He was playing the best football of his career. His teammates look up to him, respect him. You lose that leadership. You lose that ability. You got Keanu Coote, who plays the same position, who's suspended for this game and was suspended. So you're all of a sudden you're a little short on the outside, edge rushers, outside linebacker, whatever you want to call them, and you're going to have some guys step up in that position, because that is a critical position for a football team. You've got to have guys on the edge that not only can rush the passer, but also can play the run, can be disruptive, get off blocks. And, Yanze Pierre is a guy that's going to have to step it up, out of Eufaula High School, number 42, good looking football player, terrific athlete, 6'3", about 240 pounds, can run, has had some issues, I think, picking up the defense and doing what he needs to do, but physically he's talented enough. And, you feel good about Rusal on the other side. Maybe Keon Keeley gets an opportunity, Philip. I mean, they're going to have to start developing some more players at that position because of the fact that Q Robinson's out for the year with an injury, and we don't know what Keanu Coote's status is going forward.
Yeah, that's right. And Keeley's going to have to get his head right and in the mode of helping out and playing. And then also deeper than that, you've got to, Noah Carter, and he's got to get ready. Yeah, maybe so. You might have to turn to a true freshman. So we'll see what they do. Hey, I got to get out and get to the break. Offering you 100% satisfaction and appointments set around your schedule. Give us a call for all your steam cleaning needs. 205-553-9460. Houston Hydro Steam. Quality work you can stand on.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Partly to mostly sunny today with a high at 74. Tonight fair, the low at 55. Tomorrow becoming cloudy. A good chance of rain by afternoon, the high 65. Thursday, cloudy with rain ending during the morning, the high at 67. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 68 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
The best sports talk in the state. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 10:56. This show flew by. And tomorrow now we'll be back heavy with guests because Kayla Anderson, who couldn't make it on today, will shift her segment till tomorrow. We'll also have Matt Coulter on NASCAR. Obviously, I'll be bragging about picking Joey Logano to be the winner and having picked, I think, 7 winners. Matt sent me a text that they said I picked about 20% of the races. I picked the correct winner. That's pretty impressive in NASCAR. And also Larry the Music Man as well tomorrow, so we'll look forward to that. That's going to wrap it up for today's edition of the show. A reminder that you can catch me on the TV tonight with your local sports and with Rodney Orr for Tider Insider TV at 6:30 on WVUA 23. And we're back on all the major outlets. We're back on Direct, Dish, Xfinity, Spectrum, Comcast. So we're back. So you'll be able to watch TITV tonight, not have to worry about, if you don't have us on your television provider, because we are back. So make a note of that, 6:30 tonight, TITV. All right, that's going to do it for the program. And we've got T-Town Sports Daily coming up next with Wyatt Fulton and Chase Brumfeld. Thanks to Chase for his great work today. And we'll be back tomorrow, as I said, with a loaded Wednesday Hump Day edition of the Gary Harris Show. Enjoy this beautiful weather, everybody. Talk to you again in the morning.